We can't get indicted. The margin for error oftentimes feels less for us. So yes, to this very day, I feel like I gotta come out here, I gotta be perfect, I gotta be clear and clean, and right and on point. I don't think it ever ends. That's why I talk about it. Because I think if we don't talk about it, I think folks don't understand that that burden exists. We can handle it, but it is a burden that is real. I mean, you look around, there is hypocrisy all over the place. And what was expected of my husband and what are expected of other people. I don't care what party you're from, that is a fact. We are seeing that right now. And I think we just sort of have to own that that's the truth. That's what we live with. We live with double standards all the time. So no, it doesn't go away. It ain't gone. Not yet.
I was hoping for me, you're going to say it went away so I could feel good.
Well, but here's what I do think. I think that the more we talk about it, and I think the generations that are following us, I think that they, I think younger people are more open-minded, they're more exposed, and that's how change happens. Look, things were better than when my grandfather was around. This isn't a complaint. I mean, I look back at what my great-great-grandfather had to endure, and we've made progress, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about one or two generations. We're a young country. It's sort of like America's like a teenager, in the scheme of like the age of countries. We're young and we're still learning, and we think we know more than we do because we think that our hardships are everything because these are the only ones we know. But we still have a lot of growing to do, and that's what I'm hopeful about, that every generation for you, hopefully my presence here, my willingness to put this uncomfortable stuff out on the table and get the slings and arrows thrown at me for even saying it, helps you and the next ones coming after us to talk about this more, to sort of share these feelings and to sort of, again, understand the context. So when somebody is angry or uptight, understand their context, And so I'm hoping that we do get better, and I'm positive that we will, because we have been getting better. With every generation, we've gotten better. We still have work to do, but we've gotten better. So your job is to do that work.
I got homework now.
You got homework now. All y'all got homework now. All young people. Take out your notepads. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so let's talk about you graduate from law school, you got this great job at a law firm, and you're sort of like clicking down the path that you have planned for yourself. And then you meet Barack Obama.
There he is.
What were your initial thoughts about future President Bay?
All right. Okay, so this is the full Bay story.
Ooh.
First of all,
ready for some tea? I'm ready for some tea.
When you talk with your hands, you were really into it. First of all, I wasn't that impressed. Because the first meeting was on paper, it was over the phone, it was through other people, sort of going on and on about this hotshot black, kid from Harvard. And, honestly, I was thinking, okay, white folks think that a black brother that can talk straight is wonderful. I can only imagine what you think is cool. Let me be the judge of that. So I'd already kind of boxed him into like the nerdy, look, his name was Barack Obama. I'm from the south side of Chicago. People weren't giving out those names, you know? It's like, who names their kid Barack? Where'd that from? In my mind, I'm trying to be open-minded, but I'm like, a black man, then he grew up in Hawaii. I said, there are no black people in Hawaii. So, you know, just imagine this. So the partners like him. He's Barack Obama from Hawaii. I'm thinking nerd. So, but until I called him, I had to call him on the phone and introduce myself and get him ready for the first day. And I called him, I was like, may I speak to Barack Obama? And he's like, this is Barack Obama in his Barack Obama voice. And that's when I was like, ooh. That wasn't the voice that I had matched with the paper. So I was like, no. You know how you kind of go, ooh, it's like step back just a little bit. And then he shows up at the office late. So of course, as he's late, I'm thinking, the little black associate is gonna be late on the first day. He's giving us a bad name, and I'm gonna have to really sit him down and have him understand that you can't be late. And then he shows up, and he is Barack Obama. And I was like, oh, not what I expected. He was tall, and he still had that walk, because even though he was late, he didn't like walk faster behind me. He was still sort of like, you know, I'm so sorry. It's like, I mean, it was raining and I wasn't equipped with an umbrella. So I was sort of like, okay, you're late, but you still got swag.
Okay, so you brought the book up and you were like, okay, I'm gonna friend zone him a little bit. And I'm like, but really, girl, like, were you really?
I was so focused because I had made this statement to my mother because I had boyfriends in law school and I thought I need to focus on me and enough with men. I made this statement, this declaration to my mother, and she's like, whatever. So I felt like, well, I said it, I'm not gonna go back on it. The first guy I meet in the summer, that would be, and then we're the only two black people from Harvard. I was like, that's gonna be tacky. We are not coming out like that, you know? Then it'd be like, oh, I knew they all liked each other. You know, I'm going to introduce you to my friends because I have a number of single girlfriends, professional, all these folks. So I was really in my mind.
So these were legitimate. So like you weren't like trying to set up with like someone like
no.
So you could still get in there.
My beautiful, wonderful friends.
Yeah.
Who were just a little too bougie for him, as it turned out.
Yeah.
So it was interesting watching him go through that journey, and then he just sort of went, I want to date you. And it was like, you know, and this is something that I've been saying to the men out there, you know, a man who decides what he wants and states what he wants without playing games, and that was new, because before you dating a guy who's like, well, I sort of like you, and I don't know, and all that. I didn't want we know what that feels like, that sort of, I'm not sure, and are we dating? Well, I don't want to call it dating. You know, Barack was like, no, we should go out. And he was like, forget what the firm thinks, I don't care what the firm thinks, which I liked. So there was a certainty and a confidence to him. Not to mention we had become friends. So over the course of the summer, I liked him for so many other reasons, and I think it helped that my mind was turned off to that, because I got to see him. Not, again, his stats, but like how his humor, his self-deprecation, his interesting journey I got to learn about. I got to see how he treated others, not just the partners in the firm, but the secretaries and the paralegals and the folks on the street. You know, he was a community organizer, which was something that a lot of professional brothers, the notion was like, whoa, you were working in neighborhoods that I grew up in? He knew more about the South Side than most black folks that I knew. And that impressed me, that he was thinking bigger about life in ways that I had not. That's right.
Ooh.
And that's what I fell in love with, and sort of the lesson that I learned from that is that we as women have to be careful not to just go after that sort of money potential, or those sort of that traditional stuff that we think is what makes a spouse. It's really the full picture of who they are and how they treat women in the world, and that takes time. That's not something that you learn in the first date or two. That to me, that's one of the reasons why I don't believe in love at first sight. I mean, love is so much deeper, and it requires so much more knowledge for you to understand how that person shows up in the world. And I got to see that in Barack before I even considered him as a person to date, and I think that helped me.
Yeah, and yes, clap it up for that. Yes, please. You wanted to, and I stepped in there. All right. But I think a lot of people look to your relationship with Rock, and they go, "Yeah, that's hashtag goals. That's what I want." And I think so much of that is because people can see that friendship there, and I think that's like not talked about enough. Where it's like you want to be best friends with your life partner. And so can you speak a little bit about how you feel like having this deep bond, this friendship with Rock has really sort of like helped you guys to stay in your relationship?
Well, it's, and I'd say this to young people all the time, marriage is hard. It is, and I don't think we say it enough. I don't think we're honest enough about it, because we talk about the love and and he bought me this, and we feel this way, we hold hands, and it's like, that doesn't sustain you through the hard stuff. Because the hard stuff is coming for us all. It's not, it doesn't sort of pick people out. Marriage is hard because you're taking two separate lives and melding them together, and then if you're lucky and that's on your path, you have children, which they are hard. That is just a hard thing to do, is raising children. So when you go through all that, if you don't have the substance, the core of a friendship, to fall back on, because there's so many times when you're going to look at each other and you can be like, I don't even like you today. I don't like you. I don't want to be your friend. We are not friends. I don't even know why I thought we were friends. I always said joke, it's like those times you just want to push them out the window, not a high window. Because you don't want them to break everything, because you need them to wake up the next morning and take care of the baby. But you want them to just like bruise himself. Oh, babe, you okay? There will be those times. And if we are not honest with young people about that, when they hit those times, they quit. It's like, oh, what? You mad because she got on your nerves? It's like, oh, she's gonna get on your nerves for like 5 years. So how are you gonna work through that? And the journey that we've had together, the building of laughs and experiences together, the hard times, the good times, this presidency brought us closer together. Just going through something really hard with your partner, that's what a marriage is. And that takes time to build, and patience to build over time. And sometimes you need help. As we did, sometimes you need counseling, and that counseling can come in the form of marriage counseling, or your pastor, or some elders. But this notion, why I share that in the book, is that I don't want young people to think that they should even be trying to fix their brokenness on their own. Sometimes you need another opinion. You need some advice, some guidance, and that's okay. And I know in the Black community, we have to be okay with that word, counseling, therapy. It's okay, y'all. Don't be like, what you mean you talking to people about your business? Therapy helped me not push him out the window. Although I did think, when you go to counseling, I know I thought I was taking him to counseling for him to get fixed. That was my plan. It's like, you need to see a counselor, and we are going. Dr. such and such, this is my husband. Please explain to him why he's wrong. About everything. And then the counselor looked at me, it's like, what about you? I'm like, what are you doing? Why are we even, don't look over here. I'm good. He's the broken one. But it was through counseling for me because, in counseling, there isn't a right or wrong. Everybody's stuff gets analyzed. And I had to look at myself and think, how am I responsible for my own happiness? Rather than looking to my partner to fulfill things in me that I have to fill up on my own. I can't look to my husband only as my only source of happiness. So that period of time was a turning point in me in learning how to put myself first.
Yes.
He wasn't stopping me from putting myself first. I was like many women. I felt like I didn't deserve to be first, that my husband, my kids, that everything else needed to be before me. And so I was depleted and mad at him. And what I had to learn how to do was put myself higher up on my priority list and not feel guilty about it. And I know that a lot of women here, we are just lugging around guilt. And I had to think about the kind of mother, the kind of wife I wanted to model to my girls as well.
Wow.
I wanted them to see a mother who knew how to live her life independent from her husband, who knew how to be happy on her own, who knew how to invest in herself and her health and her beauty in my career. I wanted them to see all of that and also to see a mother who loved them deeply. So counseling helped me kind of open my eyes to more work that I had to do.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you did that. I want to stick on the topic of pursuing happiness because I think, like a lot of people, I really identify with this. Like you feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. Like I go to the right schools, I get the right job, I'm hanging out with the right friends. After you met Barack, you had some other things happening in your life. You had a passing of your dear friends, and you started journaling. You were like, I don't know if this is necessarily the path that I want to be doing. This is the thing that's making me happy. And I want to talk about that because I know a lot of times society is sort of like, nobody wants you to go anything different. They want you to do X, Y, Z. And it can make you feel like alone, like if you want to try and explore, take a risk. So how did journaling help you sort of figure out what you want to do with your life? And sort of, can you speak to how people can combat external forces telling you you should be doing this as opposed to what someone necessarily wants to do? It's going to make them happy.
And I know a lot of young people are dealing with everybody at a certain age, especially when it's time to make a transition. It's hard to sort of think about your own passion and what you care about. And for me, I struggled with that when it was time for me to leave law, when I knew that after all this investment, time and money and resources, I hadn't taken time to think about what I wanted to do, what I cared about. I was a lawyer and didn't enjoy the law. And I thought, oh my God, here I am. I know there are a lot of lawyers in the room who are feeling like, amen. But law is what, young people get in that position by following career paths that get acceptable responses. So when kids go to college, if they haven't been exposed to much at all, well, how do you know what you want to be? For me, I picked law out of a hat. Okay, I'll be this lawyer thing. And people would go, oh, that's lovely. And I was like, okay, I guess that's good because people responded to it. I didn't know what being a lawyer was. I'd never been around a lawyer. I'd never been in a law firm. In my life, I hadn't explored anything. I hadn't tried anything because I was checking boxes off. And now for young people, and this is easier said than done for kids like me who are on financial aid and don't have the luxury like my kids had of having a gap year. I was like, what's a gap year? Oh, it's a year. Is another year we pay for? Okay, that wasn't an option, but the notion of trying to do more to explore what's possible when you're young, whether it's through internships or trying different summer jobs or having more conversations with people. I did none of that. I picked a career and went to law school. And that was that. And I accumulated a ton of debt picking the wrong career. So yeah, I had to unwind that and figure out in my 20s, okay, now that I did what I thought I was supposed to do, now I have to do the hard work of figuring out what I want to do. And those are very different things. And they don't teach you that in college. There isn't a degree that helps you determine what your passion is. And so I want young people to understand that there are differences between doing what you have to do and then finding your passion. And that takes time and exploration, and trying on some things. And for kids who have debt and don't have that freedom, you have to try it with a plan, have your career that you know is paying the bills and covering your loans, but then think of how you're making time to explore some other things on the side, whether it's through your volunteer work or serving on a board or working with a community group. I wish I had done all of that sooner. I think we rush kids to try to figure out who they want to be too quickly. And how on earth at 20 and 21, 22, 23, how would a young person really know what they want to be? So I think we have to kind of take some of that pressure off of young people, because life is long. And as as you see in my book, I have been a lawyer, an executive director of a nonprofit organization. I've worked at a university. I've been a vice president. I have had a number of careers, and each of those helped me to learn more about myself.
Yes.
But it's getting over the fear of leaving the known and taking the risk and doing something else. And I would just urge parents out there, to the extent that you can be, is a little more patient with young people, to give them kind of the leeway and the support if you can. Because I also, even though my parents weren't rich, one of the things they always did for me is that they allowed me and Craig in our points of transition. We could always stay at home in the little apartment and pay sort of halfway rent kind of ish. For them, that was all they could give us. They couldn't give us inheritance. They couldn't pay for our school. But in times of transition, they said, okay, you're walking away from this high-powered law career. Okay, you can live at home and pay a little bit of rent. That's what we can do for you. But those times helped me get through financially to be able to do something that I loved, that eventually turned into something that, earned a living. So my parents, even without having money, found ways to support me through, just with their attitude and their love and their, sort of trust that I know what I was trying to do in the end.
And what about public service or working at nonprofit sort of attracted you, where you're like, oh, this is my calling?
I was talking to a bunch of wonderful young men from Wayne State earlier today. Just an amazing group of young men. And my brother and I and Keegan Michael Key, we were talking, we had a little group together. And all three of us told them that service is really, public service is the thing that gives you life oftentimes. To me, it's not, it is a selfish endeavor for me, because spending time working with young people and mentoring young people and talking to those kids, that fills me up in ways that, money can't buy. And I learned that with leaving the law and trying some things in public service. I love being able to take what I know and give it to somebody else and helping them have a leg up. I get sheer pleasure from seeing other young people like me, whether it's race or class, learning from my mistakes. To me, that is heaven. And I just urge young people to give that a try, even if it's not their career, finding some space in their lives where they're giving back, to find that joy that you get when you give to somebody else. And I just decided I wanted that to be my career. I didn't want to do that as a hobby. That's not true for everyone. But for me, I wanted to wake up every day doing something that brought me joy and gave me, just a piece of happiness and purposefulness. And my jobs in public service did that. So it's a little selfishness.
So, you're transitioning to a new career, and then around this time, you, Rob, also wanted to have a family, start a family. And I really love you write about this in your book because you're so honest and vulnerable and talking about IVF. And I've had many friends who are in the process of it or have used it. And it is more common than people think, but it still feels like such a taboo subject. So what made you sort of be like, I'm gonna just put everything on the line? I'm just really, because it's one thing to live it, but to revisit it and write about it, I think can be really tough and tricky. So how did you get to a place where like, I can share this part of me?
Well, first of all, with me sitting here talking, you guys know I am an open book. I mean, the things I shared in the book to me don't feel like things that I wouldn't share. I mean, people who know me, anytime I meet a young person who I think might be struggling, I'm like, let me tell you what I went through, because I know for me, not knowing that miscarriages are common, that infertility happens and what it is. I didn't know any of that. So I felt, as I write about it, you feel a sense of not just loss, but loneliness and failure in a way that just isn't, it isn't true. And then you sit down with your doctor and they run through the statistics and it's like, why didn't you tell me this before? I don't understand why it is we wouldn't share these things if it helps younger women. If it helps somebody else, I have two beautiful children. I was blessed. This is part of my journey, and I can't be Michelle Obama and tell you only the good parts of the journey. I have to, if I'm going to give you the full context, if I'm going to help somebody else, they got to know the full story. And these things aren't things to be embarrassed by. Miscarriage, and if there's a woman out there who feels ashamed by it, somehow I want to wake her up and tell her, move through this and ask for help, because for me, talking about it and learning that there were other people who went through it, that helped me. So I'm not going to hold on to this if it can possibly help somebody get through. And I hope more of us do that as we feel comfortable. Me, I'm now an open book. But hopefully we get to the point where we can have the conversations with the young women in our lives and help them through these darker times.
So you're mother of two wonderful daughters.
Two of them.
Yeah, two, Sasha and Malia. And I feel like, I remember being a teenager and how I was like, oh man, life is hard. I just feel like it's really hard to raise women in this society.
Yeah.
And so what do you feel have been some of the trickiest aspects of raising two girls in a society that doesn't really value women as fully multidimensional beings who have their own sense of agency?
Well, the challenges for us, raising Malia and Sasha in the White House are probably unique kind of things that we had to worry about. Probably made things a little more unique. Our focus was on making sure they came out of this thing normal and whole. That was really, and that first hit me, all throughout, but on the first day, I write about this when we came early to the White House before the inauguration, because I wanted the kids to start in their new school at the beginning of January and not at the end of January, because that would be not only hard for two little kids to move from another city and start a new school, but to start 1 month in later than the semester started. So we moved there. And the first day they went to school in their motorcade, because the girls had full motorcades. Each of them had 3 cars, shielded cars with at least 4 security in each car that followed them around always. And to see them leave in those 3 cars and go to school, there's a picture of Sasha's little face peeking out the window. I thought, oh my God, how do we make sure that this kid doesn't come out crazy, at the end of this. So we spend a lot of our time doing what I think parents do. It's like your reaction is their reaction. It's like when you have a toddler just learning how to walk and they bump their head on the table and they look up to you to see whether they should cry. And your reaction, if you're like, oh my God, they're in tears. And if you're like, you're fine, they kind of like rub their head and move on. I think Barack and I spent 8 years telling them, you're fine, you're fine. It's like, yes, those men are on your school roof with machine guns. That's fine. Just go to school, girl. It's like, oh, your daddy's motorcade almost hit your teacher. Oh, girl, don't worry about it. Let's go to school. I mean, literally, I think to the point where we spend our time downplaying everything that happened to them. It's like, yeah, no, you can't come. You can't come to a special event if you have homework. No, you don't get a day off because your daddy did something, because he's doing something every day. Go to school, This isn't special. It's like, well, Mom, it's the Easter egg roll. You have school. I don't care if there are 3,000 people in the yard. You don't get to go. I mean, that's how we ran our house. It's like, you make your bed. I don't care if there's a butler. Don't touch them. Don't touch their beds. I don't care. Let them walk. Let the sheets walk. They're going to learn how to let them walk. They'll change them. So there's a lot of that, to the point where I'm sure we overlooked stuff that was probably crazy for them. That they're like, this was hard, this was unusual. And I write about how Malia played tennis, and she was on the tennis team, and there was a mother who came up in the middle of practice because the tennis court was on Wisconsin Avenue, which is a busy street in DC, and walked up to her and said, what are you doing out here? And Malia told me this. She's like, a mom came up and said, I shouldn't be out there playing because I could get killed. And I was like, well, what did you say to her? Malia said, well, I told her that if you're asking whether I contemplate life or death every day, the answer is no. And let me tell you, that shook that woman so much. I think 2 years later, she came up to me at a parent-teacher conference and left me a note and said, please take this. I was like, you're the mother. And she wrote this long note because I don't think she had realized what she was planting in this kid's head who was just trying to get through school and play tennis. Those are the kind of things that we had to worry about over self-esteem, making sure that they still felt like the center of our universe, even though their father carried the weight of the world on their shoulders. So dinner time couldn't be about Syria. It couldn't be about, Osama. It couldn't be about the recession. It had to be about, how's your little friend? What's her name? Jill? Okay.